Hi, my name is Tom, and this is What It Takes. Each episode, I sit down with real business owners to talk about their journey, the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. Let's dive in. Hey guys, and welcome back. My name is Tom, and I'm here with Business Owners Tell All What It Takes. And today's guest has one of those stories that really captures what this show is all about. I have Jaya, the founder of Svaha USA, a purpose-driven clothing brand based in the United States that's reimagining fashion through science, curiosity, and empowerment. Originally from India, she came to the US with just a backpack and a vision for something bigger. She went on to earn her PhD in fashion merchandising from Iowa State University, taught fashion buying, authored of textbooks that's used in universities, and even worked as an apparel buyer for ThinkGeek before starting her own company. But what makes her journey especially powerful is how it all came together: her academic background, her industry experience, and even her role as a mom to build a brand that doesn't just sell clothing, but actually encourages learning and challenges the norms. Jaya, I'm really excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So let's just kind of dive right in. For those of you who are just getting to know you, can you share just a little bit about your background and what led you from India to building a business here in the US?
Sure. I was born and raised in India. I'm a military kid, so moved around a lot while I was growing up. I loved traveling and I loved meeting new people, and it's always been a passion of mine. So I actually had studied, my undergrad was in textiles and clothing because that's something that I was passionate about from the time I was a little kid. So I did my undergrad in fashion, in the whole fashion world, and I worked in manufacturing and in retail in India for a few years before I decided that I wanted to study further. And I just thought it'll be a great way to get a different kind of an experience, and so I decided to come to the US to study. So I came here with a teaching assistantship at the University of Georgia, where I was doing my master's. And while I was doing that, I realized that I love to teach. And so then I decided I was going to do a PhD because that was a requirement if you wanted to teach. And when I was doing my PhD, I started studying consumer behavior and how, because I had worked in India, the consumers there are so different from the consumers in the US, and just the way people buy clothing is so different from the way people buy computers. So it was a very interesting learning experience. And after I finished my PhD from Iowa State University, I moved to DC, where I was teaching fashion buying for 5 years at a university here. And right after that, I decided that I wanted to get back into the industry because the challenges of industry is something that I was very excited about. And that's when I joined ThinkGeek as an apparel buyer. And I really, really loved doing that a lot. But then I had young kids, and I always had this mom guilt of I was not spending enough time with my children, and I was at work, and my kids were being raised by nannies, and it was some part of me just was not happy with it. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to take some time off and be with my kids. So I took time off. I was probably home for about 6 months or maybe even less, which is when, this I mean, first of all, I was not happy being at home because I had never been at home. So I felt like I had to do something, but then I didn't want to go away from my kids. And luckily for me, around the same time, my daughter, who was 2.5 then, decided that she wanted to be an astronaut when she would grow up. And I used to take her to the Air and Space Museum, which was very close to our home. In living in DC, you're close to so many museums, right? So she just came to me and she said, "Okay, I don't want to. I want to wear clothes that only have astronauts or space theme on them." And I couldn't find anything for her in the girls' department. I bought her a boys' T-shirt, and that's what sparked this idea in my head that, okay, wait, why are there no space clothes for girls? That doesn't sound right because I'm sending a wrong message to my daughter. And that's basically how the whole thing started. The being a mom and seeing a gap in the market and wanting to do something about it. So that's basically my story.
Wow, that is amazing. You have this amazing company that started from the lack of an astronaut t-shirt. That is I love hearing that. In most businesses, it's a pain point, right? They find a pain point and they're like, this should be different. I can do this different. So from academia to apparel entrepreneurship, it was really just, be at home with my kids and then finding that spot that, you couldn't find an astronaut shirt for your little girl. That's kind of it's mind-blowing. It's amazing and it's beautiful. And I love hearing that because I think that's the key in that you've been able to like recognize it as just like, no, this doesn't need to be this way and I can make a difference. That's great. So when did you first have that idea? Was it at that initial time where it was, um, I can't find this t-shirt, I can't find girls clothing with astronauts that Svaha was like originated from, or was it kind of more of a block and mortar, like small pieces here and there, kind of working up towards it?
No. So when I noticed that there was a gap, it made me really angry because I said that, I grew up in a family where I was never told that because I was a girl, I couldn't do something. I was allowed to be whatever I wanted to be because I came from a family that had very progressive mindset. And so I was just amazed that, we live in this day and age. Clothing is the way we are telling a girl what she can or cannot grow up to be. And for me, it was almost like, annoying. And I said that I cannot be the only mom who's feeling this way. And I cannot tell you in the last so many years that I've had my business, how many parents have come and told us as to it is so frustrating when we go shopping for our kid and all we can see is pinks and purples and butterflies, and you know what? It's totally fine. I love butterflies. I love pinks and purples too, but I don't want that to be my only option. Right. So that is when I realized that I had to do something about it. And luckily, I had all the experience. It's like my all my life experiences had prepared me to do this, so but of course, yeah, I had never had a like like never been a business person. My family does not have any business background, so I was very scared to invest too much money, which I think is the fear of every entrepreneur, right? Is how much money can I invest and how can I do this? And luckily for me, I had come across Kickstarter, which because I knew some other friends of mine who had just launched a Kickstarter campaign and it was completely different product. But I said, okay, that's not a bad way to start because then I don't need to worry about how much money I have to invest because Kickstarter is a way to um, get a reaction from others before you actually make that investment. It's like to know whether there is a demand for that product in the market or not. So all I did was create 5 T-shirts. I spent probably around $500, right? Which is not a big investment. To if you really believe in something, I think that's the least you can do is invest that much money. So I made 5 T-shirts, had friends have their kids come model for me, and have a friend of mine who's a photographer do a photo shoot for me, and like just all of those things. And I launched a Kickstarter campaign, and that's how the business started. Because in a Kickstarter campaign, you have to start the production only after you get the money. So that way, I didn't have to make a big investment, and the Kickstarter being successful is is telling you that there are other people who are feeling the same way that you feel.
Yes, 100%. The crowdfunding that idea is amazing because you are able to get the buy-in of the general public before the actual investment, which I do love that. And it gives small business startups the opportunity to grow and kind of show their vision because you're 100% right. Like, there's that market, but then like how marketable is that market too? And that's amazing. So, and you kind of said this earlier, is that you come from a background with very little, business kind of sense, very little business experience, and you have a PhD and a very strong academic background. How did that shape the way you approached learning as a business owner, especially in those early stages?
I think that being, for all the experiences that I had, like I told you, I worked as a buyer, I had studied consumer behavior, that educational background, I think prepared me really well because I knew that. you have to all, for example, just something as simple as you have to always listen to your customer, right? Good customer service, it's so important, because if your customer is not happy, then there's no point you make amazing products, because that customer is not going to come and buy it from you,
Mhm.
right? So just simple things about how to be with a customer was something that I really learned a lot when I was studying, right? And then the other thing was just having knowledge about the fabric, right? Making the right choices with the fabric, with the sewing. So when you're working with a factory, if you are knowledgeable, then you know that they cannot take you for a ride, right? I mean, I know exactly how much what costs, how much time something takes, because as a student, I had to do a lot of sewing projects. I had to because I used to teach fashion math, like the buying math. I knew, okay, that there has to be a certain ratio in which you have to order the products, because you cannot just say I want the same number of pieces in every size. That's not how it works. You know what sizes sell more, what sizes sell less. Like just all of this, like the technical know-how, knowing the math part of it. And I think the one thing that I feel is very important is that there is no dearth of how many things you can spend money on. Okay, there is, if I decide, okay, let me just do everything that I possibly can, I probably need $100 million, which I don't have. So I was very cautious about what to be able to prioritize and to make a list of what was more important and what was less important. And I
Mhm.
think that those are the things that are very important, because as a business owner, you kind of get sucked into so many things, like, and to also know, okay, let's say that I made an investment because at that time I thought it was a good investment, and then I realized it's not working out, and to be able to say, okay, I'm done, I'm not going to continue this, admit your mistake and then move on from there. I think those are all the things that my experience, my education really helped me with.
Yes, I absolutely love that. I think that is, it's one of the things that I talk to business owners a lot, especially on this podcast, and that's one of the recurring themes is that you got to be able to suck it up and know when you made a mistake and know when to cut that tree, that limb off, and kind of move on. I love hearing that. Um, so on the other side of that, what's something that you thought that you were prepared for based on your experience for when you started the business, but ended up having to completely relearn and kind of retool towards, your business today?
So, I said that, oh, I know exactly how much time everything takes, but you cannot take into account about all the problems that can happen
Mm,
in the process of getting something done, right? My business has lived through COVID. Like, who knew that was going to happen? But what do you do at that time? You need to learn to pivot, right? I started reaching out to factories where I knew, okay, they were able to make something for me, or they were able to do something. I mean, if all the factories shut down, what do you do, right? So I think that being flexible is something that I learned in many different ways while I was running my business, because I used to always feel, oh, I know exactly how everything works. I know the timing of everything, but it doesn't work like that at all. In fact, even after knowing everything, you get a sample, you have it approved, everything is perfect, but in production, something will go completely wrong. Um, Even just assuming that if I send a design idea to my designer, the designer makes it, and I think that, well, I sent the right thing, the designer made it, but if I don't check that the designer actually made it right based on my design or my idea, um, things can go wrong. And we have had a lot of these kind of problems, right? Like, for example, one time we made a design that was digits of pi in a spiral. And my customer, being the most educated of the lot, because they like to buy science products or technology themed products, they will notice every error that you make. And somebody caught that the 32nd digit of pi was incorrect. So I think it is really, really important to, even if you think that, no, I have looked at everything, everything is going to go right, it doesn't always work like that. You have to learn to pivot. You have to learn to be flexible. You have to be like extra cautious at every step. And I think that I just learned that in many times in a very hard way.
Oh, I absolutely love it. That is and just saying the COVID process. Oh my goodness, like with like supply and the manufacturers and just not being able to get product. That was probably a huge pivot in probably hundreds of different ways and repivoting and moving and just trying your best just to keep moving forward. And that's I can't imagine how hard that was for your company, but obviously you're weathered the storm and I love seeing that. Um, so with your background just being so heavily in academia and as well as, your work experience, it seems that you've really intentionally created a brand that promotes learning. Obviously, like with the science and technology kind of background with it. Um, and it doesn't seem to be just internally for you, but externally for your customers. Um, how was that intentionality just kind of put forward for you?
So, I mean, the whole reason I started my business was because I wanted to tell my daughter that just because she was a girl, it, she being an astronaut wasn't for her, right? Like the whole thing was how clothing impacts how a child can think. Because in my
Mm,
daughter's head, wait, why couldn't you find any space theme clothing in the girls' department? Am I not supposed to be an astronaut, right? Like that was the whole thought process. So I said that if that is happening, um, funnily enough, the reason I started with only a kids wear line, but I started making adults clothing because there were so many women who reached out to me and said that, people tell me that, oh, I don't belong because I'm a coder in a room full of men. I'm the only woman. And so I don't belong there. And I said that, this is, and you don't dress feminine because you want to fit in. I said, what if I make you a dress with a code on it? Would that make you fit in, right? Like, I just felt that women should never feel that they don't belong somewhere or they need to look a certain way. I mean, you can be feminine, you can, and still show that you love that subject, right? So I think I felt like the clothing was in some way impacting the way you think, right? Like it's just unbelievable how much research there is, which is probably not very commonly known, but there is how much of an impact your clothing makes on how you feel, how you behave. If you wear your favorite shirt someday, I'm sure that day you feel a little happier than other days, right? It could just be your favorite color. So even if just a color or a fit of a dress or shirt can make you feel that way, imagine if the print that you have on your dress makes you feel so good, like, oh my god, I love chemistry, and or I love coffee and my dress has caffeine molecule on it. It just makes me feel happy, and it makes me feel, and if somebody else recognizes it, it's a conversation starter. So I felt that, and that was something that's so completely missing, right? Nobody makes that. And I feel that one of the reasons why a business is successful is when you are offering something that nobody else is.
mm,
And I just felt that nobody was making what I'm making, and if it is making people feel good, if it is getting the teachers to have their students pay more attention when the teachers are showing up in a dress that is has a print of the subject that she's going to teach that day,
mhm.
it just so many different ways. And I feel like just the confidence booster that it is for little kids, a little girl who's wearing a chemistry experiment dress, somebody comes and asks her, what kind of experiments do you like to do? Instead of asking her, who's your favorite Disney princess?
Mm,
Just there is such a different conversation, a different feeling, a different way of thinking based on the print on your clothes. And I think that's always been my intention when I started this business. And I think that it has made a huge difference in how people feel about wearing a Swaha dress, and uh, and the kind of feedback I get from my customers for it.
Yes, one of the things I want to kind of piggyback on is that when somebody recognizes that, it's a conversation starter. And that is so impactful to me. When I was in college, I studied sociology a lot, and a lot of that is just finding your tribe.
Mhm.
And no matter how big or small it is, the clothing we wear generally associates to things we like. And then all of a sudden now it's one of those like, hey, did we just become best friends? And it's like, yes, because we have that same commonality and we can both share it. And I love that you're able to use that through the clothing that you're making and giving the identity to some of these females, both, adults and children is just amazing. And it's you're 100% right. You wear your favorite shirt, you feel good. You wear something you like, you feel good. And that's just absolutely amazing. I love hearing that. Um, so, kind of talking about our business a little bit here, can you share a specific mistake or challenge in the business that became a major learning moment for you?
I would actually give you an example of something that we did in my office, right? Like I have IB, like many other companies, tend to outsource fulfillment, right? In a business, right? Where when you get an order, who's fulfilling it? I, from the very beginning, decided that I wanted to have control over it, and I wanted to do it in myself in my own warehouse. Um, but the biggest challenge that I had is as my company was growing, is it was just taking too long to find because in clothing, how every dress has we have 9 different sizes,
Mm,
right? So just as an example of that is that it is very difficult when you want to make a change, especially once you have people working for you, for them to agree to change their ways, you know
mm,
and I feel like that was one of my biggest challenges. Like I was trying to implement a system where it would be easier to find products in the warehouse. And people were very, very hesitant. Even after
mm,
I paid a lot of money to make that change, nobody wanted to accept that change. They still wanted to continue with their own method. But once I said, it's. I think no human being likes change, right? We
mm.
all are creatures of habit, and we are just happy that way, even if it is not the most efficient way of doing something. But I feel like once I was able to explain and I was able to show the staff members as to how life would be so much better after they accepted and implemented the new system. And it happened, and it made a huge difference. And I feel like and that's just an example on the back end, but
Mhm.
even in the company itself, for example, I was wanting to only make kids clothing, but then when I started making adults clothing, that part of the business has grown faster than the kids business because people are a little hesitant spending more money on kids clothing because they outgrow them so quickly,
Mhm.
right? People want to not spend so much. But if I had that thing that no, but my brand is a kids brand and I have to focus on that, I would have missed out on the opportunity to grow the business, right? Once I grow the business, then I can. So I think that the whole point, again, going back to the idea of being flexible and
Mhm.
being able to see where the opportunity lies and go that way. And you cannot be stubborn about no, I have made the decision, so it must be right, and I need to stick to it. So I think those are all like different ways in which I wanted to come back to the same point.
Yes, I love it. Just being that whole idea of being flexible and being able to pivot and also realizing as the owner of seeing an opportunity to grow and then making that move forward even though everyone else around you is hesitant, you're like, I get it, but I see the bigger picture here, guys. And that's what business owners do, right? They take the leadership over their company. And that was um yeah, you're 100% right. Change is hard and nobody likes to do change because, we're creatures of habit. And then you're like, okay, and then now you have this new way. They're like, nobody wants to do it. Then they do it. They're like, okay, you were right. I love hearing that. That's amazing. So, as a founder and as a parent, as a holding a PhD, how is being able to personally stay in a learning mindset? help you grow your company and balance everything else in life also?
That's a loaded question. Okay, so first of all, I think time management is one thing that every business owner has to learn, because there are times when at 8 o'clock I pick up my phone and I'm looking at this email that I know needs a response and I have to respond, but I have to then draw a line, say that, okay, I have to not work beyond these many hours because I need some time to myself or time for my kids. So I try really hard to decide to time box my
Mhm.
work and say that, okay, from this time to this time I'm not going to work, or from this time to this time is my time for my workout or for whatever, like meeting my friends, something like that. So that's one part of it, right? The second thing is that we are in a age of change, right? There's always something new happening. There's always something, there's AI, and there is, just new fabrics coming up, new way of doing things coming up. And I feel like if I don't stay on top of those things, then I'm just going to miss out on all the ways I could improve my business, improve
Mhm.
myself, or improve things for people who work for me. So I'm always trying to learn, trying to read, trying to follow people, listen to podcasts, follow people whose ideas I like, who I know would are inspiring. So those kind of things. Like I'm on constantly doing that to stay on top of my learning, because I don't think there is ever an end to it.
Yes.
you
No,
you have to keep doing it.
I would 100% agree. And especially in like this new day and age, I was just doing a conversation with another person who was in the AI realm. And he's like, things change on a daily basis that we just have to like, if the second we stop learning is the second that our company starts dying. And I think that's, and not just for like the tech sector, but like just businesses in general. People are buying in different ways. People are shopping in different ways. People are connecting in different ways. I mean, when I was a kid, I couldn't tell you how to use a cell phone, and now I can't get away from it. And it's just it's the landscape is changing, and I'm 100% on board with you in both facets, right? Time management. I have 6 kids at home. I have to have time for me. I have to have time for them, and I have to have time to make a living. And when those coincide, usually one of them gets upset at the other, and then when the second I'm not learning, which is why I love doing these podcasts, I get to hear from people who just speak words of wisdom into me, and I love it. That's the second that you start your decline is when you decide to stop learning. Um,
Exactly.
and then for other business owners listening, what are the most important skills or areas of knowledge they should focus on developing if they want to build something meaningful and sustainable?
I think that it's very important to constantly keep in touch with what's going on around you, because I think that sometimes when you are a business owner, it's a very lonely life, and because especially if you are the owner, right? So you don't you unless you're a part of a group of other business owners, you are going to be the person on top, everybody else works for you. So you kind of, in your work life, you don't have that colleague, right, that you can sit and talk to. So I feel that it's very important to either surround yourself by people who you can bounce off ideas with, or to follow some people, because luckily we have access to so much information online through podcasts, through books, through YouTube videos, or whatever else, different mediums, right? So I think it's very important that people uh, give themselves some time to learn. And I think that even, for example, my website is on Shopify platform, which I think a lot of businesses do have their platform, on Shopify platform. And they're constantly offering new things that can make your website better. Like, for example, recently, I think now you have the agentic platform. So that means if people are looking for your product, it will show up on ChatGPT or OpenAI,
Mhm.
like any of those things, right? On Perplexity and all of that. So I think that it's very important that you stay um, on top of these things so that you're not missing out on these opportunities. And I think just the biggest thing is like talking to other business owners and learning from them. I mean, obviously not your competitors because they're not going to tell you anything, but other business owners who might be able to help you. And so I have a friend of mine who's also owns a business, and I feel like every time I talk to her, I learn something new, something that I haven't come across. And I think that those kind of things really help. But it still is a difficult thing being a business owner. But I think that if you believe in what you're doing and you know that you can do better, you just have to go at it.
I love that. The idea of just bouncing ideas off and having like a core group of people to learn from. And, it's not just you learning from them. I'm sure that they're also getting poured into by you as well. And it's just a camaraderie without being like a camaraderie there, because I think you're 100% right. When you are the business owner, it's not, you don't have colleagues, you don't have coworkers, you have employees under you. And it's a different dichotomy that you're not speaking to them in the same way, in the same light. And I think that is, I mean, just personal psyche, you just need people in your life to do that as well. But also from a growing perspective, you know, uh, many hands make light work, and that's a real thing. And I love hearing that. Um, so, Jaya, before we wrap up, we always like to ask our signature question. From your experience, what does it really take to be a business owner?
Patience, determination, and perseverance. Those are the three things I think are very important because you're not going to be successful on day one. Sometimes it takes 1 year, sometimes it can take 5 years. I'm
Mhm.
in 11th year of my business. I'm still learning, I'm still doing something. And then just believing in yourself is that if you feel that your idea is good at a point where you know that, okay, I haven't given it my all. So you have to keep pushing and you have to keep trying. But then the other thing is at a point where you feel, okay, this is not working out, is also learning to say that, okay, this is not working out and I need to not keep spending more time and energy on it. But I think that most important things are just, having the belief in yourself and perseverance to keep going.
I love that. I mean, I think it's so true. Just you already had the great idea. Now you gotta kind of wade through the mud to get there, and that's not. I'm sure it's a lot easier said than done.
Oh, yeah. It's never easy.
Oh, Jaya, this has been such a wonderful conversation, so thoughtful, especially around how your learning really sits at the center of everything you've built, from your own journey to what Svaha represents. And for everyone listening, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to check out Svaha USA and see how Jaya is bringing learning and empowerment into everyday life through fashion. Jaya, thanks again. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Would you or someone you know like to be featured on this podcast? Our applications are now open. Apply today at seekersolution.com and click on the podcast link to get started.